glad to welcome you to this particular session. It's a session where we always come together around the dial, 99.7, gather around the table and have conversations about our sport, key critical issues that affect the big history-making moments, those that are not so pleasant, and of course all of the drivers behind them, the personalities, the people, the greats, and of course those who write their names on our hearts with sterling performances. Well, less than 30 days to go to the FIFA World Cup, and day in, day out, week in, week out, we have all sorts of issues popping up. The conversation about getting a team that is worthy of playing for Ghana and representing the Black Stars brand at the FIFA World Cup is one that will never end. Today, we want to skew it a little towards the impact of the game of football and the reason why we would bother to even do what we're doing. I'm sure that you've monitored our reportage here at Joy Sports and across all of our brands at the multimedia group, and you have realized that we always make mention of figures that corporate bodies have doled out in donations to the World Cup Planning Committee or the World Cup Fundraising Committee project. Well, you're asking yourself, why at this time and why are we doling out so many amounts of money for a cause of seeing the Black Stars play at the FIFA World Cup? Now, the question is, what really is the impact story of football? And what kind of, effect does it have on our populace, on our everyday lives as a people, and the stories we write as citizens of a particular nation? What really is the case? And the reason why we should even bother ourselves to generate resources and direct them specifically towards the game of football. We'll do that analysis here, and we'll take a look at that from the lens of a man who has seen it all, from being a fan, representing fans, becoming a spokesperson for a big club, and also becoming its managing director, going all the way to FIFA, becoming a marketing consultant and an instructor, and generally being a sports marketer as well, being there on the end of sponsorship as well, and knowing what it means when multinationals and indigenous companies are doling out various amounts in sponsorship and resources, for that matter, for the cause of football. What at all is it that makes it, that important to follow, and what is the unseen impact that we do not take our attention to? We'll throw some focus on this particular subject today on the Joy Sports link on Joy 99.7 FM. Let's all remember that as we speak, the government of Ghana has involved itself in securing broadcast rights for television so that as many entities as possible can participate in the exercise of broadcasting these games to the people so they can enjoy them. Beyond traveling, to the venues where these games will be played in the United States and Canada and in Mexico, there are fans who would love to be there but cannot be there and have to view the World Cup through various platforms and channels. And so once again begs the question, why are we making all of this effort to, uphold the values of one game and one sport? We take a look at all of that right here on the Joy Sports link. And also, the African Athletics Championships is getting closer and closer to the finish line. We've had some good stories to tell about Team Ghana. The initial unfortunate reports that went out of Ghana to the rest of the continent are things we cannot also ignore. So we'll talk about them again. Of course, we've had solutions and all these problems have been solved. But what is the lesson we learn going forward so that we do not have these kinds of representations for us and for our flag and for our international image? All of these are here on the Joy Sports link on Joy 99.7 FM. Thank you so much for making us your preferred when it comes to the critical issues and the personalities behind them. We're here live also on YouTube, and we're glad to welcome all of our friends who are joining us for this conversation from all over the world. Now, we'll start off the conversations this way. Now, the Ghana FA, the Ghana Football Association, Ghana Hockey Federation, and 14 other federations were absent as the Ghana Olympic Committee held its Congress today. Now, beg your pardon, Ghana had to present 40 athletes and coaches and medical personnel for the Commonwealth Games 2026. And this is according to the president of the Ghana Olympic Committees. Now, we're expected to participate in the Commonwealth Games and at the Youth Olympics, but with months to the tournament, we're still awaiting funding. And this is according to the president of the Ghana Olympic Committee, lawyer Richard Akbukavi. Here to have the conversations with us, Mr. Neil Armstrong Motagbe. He is in charge of the FA Strategic Corporate Relations, and he's a former managing director of Accra Hearts of Oak, once a FIFA marketing instructor, and once the chair of the National Chapters Committee of Accra Hearts of Oak, the official supporters body of the club as well. He is a marketer and has been involved in some of the biggest sponsorship deals that we've seen over the course of time and probably the last 3 to 4 decades here in Ghana. And so he brings a wealth of experience to this conversation today as we take a look at why the game of football and why the bother at all. Victor Achu Tamaklo is a journalist. He is a name that is synonymous with the Joy Sports brand. He's a columnist, and he has been focusing on special features and special reports as well. Today, he decided to spend time with our friends at the Ghana Olympic Committee and has a word to bring us today as we start the conversations here on the show as regards where we want to go, where we want to see ourselves when it comes to the Commonwealth Games. And of course, another conversation will come up again. That conversation is, do we ever learn our lessons as a people regarding strategic planning? Because our neighbors and our other peers do it and do it so well and always get the results. Why don't we just learn one lesson at a time and have one solution that will kill some of these habits once and for all? All of these are here on the Joy Sports link on Joy 99.7 FM. The reason why you should also join us, and tell a friend to also join us here as we race towards 2 p.m. here on this dial. Welcome to the show.
Somebody to call my baby, somebody to call my own. And then I seen your smile, Makuma, oh my days. I am magic, Shema static, me pododo, atomum automatic. Chemistry.
Okay, so Samini starts it off musically for us this afternoon, and this is how I would like to welcome all of us to the conversation. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And is this a retro Black Stars jersey? We'll call it a retro jersey because now we have a new set. Hello.
Oh, yeah. Somebody saw me in town and said, why are you wearing old school? I told him, well, it's still Ghana.
And you know the funny thing? When peak time comes, people will scramble and even beg you to sell this for them.
They'll buy anything.
Yeah. I mean, I remember a story that Fifi Banson told me some time back about traveling and just deciding to buy a few flags to go and share, and how it became an emergency situation. I think it was at the South Africa 2010 FIFA World Cup. Charlie, Anyway, Achu, how are you doing?
My golden rule about jerseys is that until you see the players in it, until you see the players wearing the jersey real time in action, don't be quick to pass any judgments on whether or not it is nice.
No.
You remember the away jersey for this one? The red.
Yeah.
When it was first outdoored, the commentary was, we don't like this. It's too simple and it's too basic. And the moment we saw the Black Stars wear it in that international friendly, all of that talk went out of the window. And I think within a week, when I called my friends at the GFA to ask that, Charlie, I have a few people who were interested in getting the jersey, who were told they had run out of stock. They had run out of the replica. But it is the same Ghanaians who were saying that, oh, the jersey be dull and it's not exciting enough. So when it comes to jerseys, my golden rule is until I see the team wearing it, I won't be quick to look at just the plastic images to say that they are not nice.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Have I bought mine? The new edition. I have a few editions of the old one. I don't play with them, and I have my Hearts of Oak jersey, the Hearts of Oak at 100 jersey. Hey, Charlie, that's you guys. You need to go and reproduce. So let's talk to the people. Because as I just say, unfortunately, I can't give it to anybody. That one, my father will
The Hearts at 100.
break the grieve and come and give me a knock. Neil, good to see you. Accra.
Good to see you, Absu.
Nice one. Charlie, it's always good to hang out on the Motown campus. Actually, I'll take you to the Motown campus one of these days. At a specific time, when the sun is down and, the breeze.
Nice things come out.
Yeah. Between the, and when you park your cars between Agri Chapel and the Cricket Over, and you open your boots, you open the boots and, you start sharing a few things here and there. You start having a conversation. Charlie, it's something else.
It's more exciting in the sense that this is the year before our centenary. So
Charlie.
Be vibe.
Yeah. Talk about that. Once again, to all of our friends in Infantipim, remember, whether you invite anybody or not, that we all want to own. We all want to own. I was with some mobile friends.
The school no longer belongs to them.
No
longer belongs to them.
I was some few mobile friends of, like a couple of days ago at a party, and I was telling them the same thing.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, Charlie Bar, right? The way I say, my friend, we don't care about any accommodation. People will stay in Takoradi and drive back and forth. That is not
that one. No be issue.
Leave that one for we. Charlie, anyway, guys, good to have you here. Let's begin with the Ghana Olympic Committee. I mean, you spent time with them this morning, and I'm a little sad to hear again that we find ourselves in the same web. I mean, 4 years ago, a couple of years ago when we went for the last edition, we said, oh, let's come back, let's start immediately, and we seem to find ourselves here.
I'm sure you're referring to the size of the contingents the GOC president announced we're taking there. So for those who haven't heard the story, Ghana will go with 40. That is 60 fewer than we took to Birmingham. In Birmingham, it was 160 male athletes and then 40 female athletes. And today we got the announcement from the GOC president that it will be slashed down to 40. That's the size of the athletes contingents that we're sending there. There will be medical officers as well. He mentioned safeguarding officers. It was not able to explain that bit to us, but that will be there. And basically all the support staff that will go. But of course, when you hear the announcements that the core team is made up of just 40 and it's 60 fewer than the last time, that is what makes the headlines. But there is a bit of context to this that we have to explain. Remember the struggle to get a host for the last Commonwealth Games, right? And the incidents that led to the Commonwealth Games Foundation or the Federation announcing that as a cost-cutting measure, they were going to slash down on the number of disciplines that teams participate in. They actually did it. So in October 2024, there's the story on Major Online that we reported that this is the decision that the Commonwealth Games Federation had announced. Now, some of the disciplines that were affected in that slash are cricket, field hockey, rugby sevens, squash, and wrestling. All of that as a cost-saving emergency measure due to the issues surrounding the last Commonwealth Games and the fact that nobody really wanted to host the events. Now, in the context of our decision to slash from 100 to 40, it is significant because for field hockey alone, you are talking about two teams in excess of 30. So your male team will have a minimum of 15 to 18 players. Female team, the same. So even if you want to go with 15 alone, you want to cap it at 15, you are talking about 30 athletes that are no longer part of this contingent. Right? Then you also have to talk about the cricket teams. We know the number that each cricket team has got to assemble. So there is that. The cricket team, there is no field hockey. There's no longer rugby sevens, no squash, and of course wrestling as well. At the last games, in fact, don't think too far. At the last African Games, we had teams for hockey, both male and female teams for hockey. But those teams will no longer be admitted at the Commonwealth Games because the Commonwealth Games Federation has decided that they are not going to enlist field hockey and the disciplines that I have mentioned. So that is a bit of context to the decision to present 40 athletes even though at the last games we presented 100, we have been forced to slash and not go with a number of disciplines that in the past we could have. But it has its own advantages because that's what it means is that if you want to go with the last budgets that you did, or even 70% of that budget, it means you have more to spend on less. That goes directly to the quality of preparation. Unfortunately, it is not a reality, although that is the idea that a lot of people would expect. I say it is not a reality because, and that takes me to the next leg of the conversation. One of the things Richard Akpokabi spoke about was the fact that with just about less than 2 months to the commencement of the Commonwealth Games, they have not received. Not long ago, Parliament approved the budgets for the Commonwealth Games. It was in excess of 12 million Ghana cedis. If you convert it to dollar terms, it's around $1 million US. If you convert it into pound terms, you're talking just over 900,000 pounds or so, if I'm not mistaken. But those are just rough estimates. But in cedi terms, it was 12 million Ghana cedis. That's what could be the explanation or the justification for the government's refusal to release, or let's say inertia. Maybe refusal might be too definitive, but their inertia towards making good on what they promised the Ghana Olympic Committee. And I say this, and this is very similar to the whole government's posturing towards the ongoing CAA African Athletics Championships, because if you have committed to this and for some reasons you are unable to release funds now, give them letters of authorization and letters of credit to take to facilities to go and take loans within reasonable time, so that at least by this point, the GOC would have had money sitting in its coffers to start preparing athletes. Even that has not been done. Without that, the GOC cannot enter into any contract or any agreement on behalf of governments because you don't have the authorization of the finance ministry. So whatever you do, you are putting yourself at risk, and the liabilities on that will fall solely on the footstep of the Ghana Olympic Committee. And the consequence of this is the poor preparations that we're seeing. That's your boys are at Winneba. I'm sure they speak to you all the time. The Amateur Boxing Federation, the Black Bombers team are in Winneba. And some of the conditions that they are preparing in are not ideal. Not for athletes who we say should go and represent us at the Commonwealth Games. And so, what I would say is this. I think the government needs to take a hard look at itself and stop the pretense about interest and commitment to sports, because the issues are becoming one too many. Where this week we've spoken at length about the African Senior Athletics Championships. Governments entered into that MOU with CAA on January 7. 20 days later, CAA corroborated that story by releasing a circular. Now, we got the hosting rights some 2 years ago. In July 2024, we beat Botswana to win the hosting rights. The government came in last year. They had a year to review everything. And after being satisfied on January 7th, they signed that memorandum of understanding. Curiously, the budgets for the year had no mention of the Senior African Athletics Championships. The budgets for the year had no mention of the Commonwealth Games until the recent one that went to Parliament that got approved. Youth Olympics is immediately after
So
the
that
Commonwealth
then means
Games.
that strategic planning wise, we missed a lot of time, because if it was not in the first budget, then I mean, it
There is
missed-
that, but I'm saying that
Yeah.
where there is a commitment from governments, they can cut through a lot of these bureaucracies. Because I, for the life of me, cannot understand why. At least for the Commonwealth Games, you have approved the budget. You've gone to Parliament to do the right thing, ratified it. They have agreed that this is what you set aside for the Games. If indeed you say you are committed to it, let it show in the way you... Because, and here's the thing, if you later release money at the end of May or in the first week of June, you probably would have wasted time, and that money will not deliver the sort of results because, again, quality of preparation. If the Black Bombers team, Coach Furasari and his people, I'm sure if they had their way, they would not take the boxers to Winneba. There is no world-class boxing facility in Winneba. Not one. In fact, there is not a single decent boxing gym at Winneba. So when I heard that they had sent the team to Winneba, I was like, why are we doing this again? Nats, you know boxing better than I do. Which of the prominent gyms in this country is based in Winneba? The training facilities.
If resources are available, gyms can be put up in.
But we
no
haven't
time.
done that. That's the issue for me.
Yeah.
The only response to any queries about the quality of existing infrastructure in Winneba that would be satisfactory is to tell us that we admit there is nothing there, but we have been able to put together this for them to go and train. In the absence of that, every other explanation is just an excuse. So while there are a lot of things that from today's AGM that you could look at, this part for me is the most significant. The fact that less than 2 months to the Commonwealth Games, the GOC boss is crying out for support, and he's literally saying that. And he was very measured in his commentary. He said he understands the austere circumstances of the country and the fact that there are economic situations in other sectors that may take precedence over this one. But once we have committed to this, he's pleading with governments. I perhaps would not have been as kind and as maybe accommodating of this reluctance to release funds for this. And look, our last participations in multi-sport events have not been great. The Birmingham story was not great. We were in this country when we were told that a certain athlete had some substances in their system because we did things like we are doing today. And before they even went, there was no proper testing of the athletes that we took to Birmingham. And that is how come within the first 5 days of arrival, they will test someone for a substance in their system and they will fail the test. Because if this happens maybe either 2 weeks or 3 weeks into, no, look, under no circumstances is that even permissible, because we ought to be testing our athletes frequently. But you cannot blame the team that took the athletes there, because first of all, you have to talk about the capacity. You have to talk about putting that infrastructure in place to ensure that they have the test tools and the equipment, they have the right lab guys and the doctors who will be there to handle it. What was even the size of the contingent, the medical support staff itself? So
the long and short of the story is that we're back here. We're back at the same junction.
Apokavi has said his bit. And at this point, I will go beyond the minister and speak directly to the chief of staff. Likes to put his image on a lot of the nice things in this country. But on the relevant conversations where people are actually crying for help, we don't really see his face there. I would appeal to him that we see that when he moves, things happen. Like the Ghana Premier League. As for the African Athletics Champions, the disgrace has already happened. But for this one, the GOC and the sports ministry need things to happen. He needs to show face and step in. I'm not sure who he has to speak to. Maybe it's the president. Maybe it's the finance minister. But make the monies available. make the monies available, because all of the nice things, all of the ideas that they were talking about there, and look, some of these federations are doing well. Like last year alone, badminton hosted 6 international events in this country. Nobody had any bad press. Nobody had any bad word about the fact that they have disgraced us. But each time, Evans Yeboah had to pre-finance everything. Until this government has not reimbursed 1 cedi to him. That is badminton. They did that. Tennis, this year, just last week, they had issues. Do you know that for our first game, our captain and some of our tennis players in the UK, they had visa issues and so did not arrive on time. So we lost our first match. By the end of the first round, the team had been eliminated. And so, look, there is a lot going on that I think, as I said before, the issues are piling up. The issues are piling up. But on the core issue of putting money on the table, as for the swimming issues, yesterday we touched on that briefly. That is a different kettle of fish. The esports clash of 2 federations, those are things that the ministry needs to take care of. But the bigger problem for Ghana sports as we speak.
And before you go on, I mean, with swimming, we just need to bring everybody up to speed. That well, there are 2 factions.
Yeah.
There was a disputed process towards the election. Eventually, an election has been held. There's one faction that still disagrees with the process, but word has gotten
election
to World
didn't
Aquatics.
So they called the elective congress, and then it was stopped. The ministry, I think 3 weeks ago, better help me with the dates, 3 weeks ago, released a statement that they no longer recognize the existing regime of Ghana swimming. Now,
But World Aquatics has written to the minister directly.
yes. But now, my little knowledge about politics at this level is that if the government says for example, if the government says they no longer recognize GFA, the next leg of that move is to engage CAF, is to engage FIFA, and make sure that you convince them and get to be on the same page that, Charlie, these guys are the GFA. They no longer represent the interest of Ghana because of XYZ, and because of that, CAF should also not deal with them. FIFA should also not deal with them. That is what should have followed the announcement from the sports ministry and the NSA. But that didn't happen. And only last week, the same people that the sports ministry had revoked their license and said they were no longer the people to run swimming in Ghana went to represent Ghana in Algeria. Now, that tournament was a tournament that Ghana should have hosted. We had the rights. And because of this issue, the ministry decided they will not release money. And so Ghana swimming writes to Kana, and then Kana says, okay, we'll find a different host. Long story short, we missed out on that opportunity. But that intra-federation politicking, I don't think it reflects well on the minister, because it looks like his authority has been undermined by swimming. That's a different kettle of fish. And I'm saying that there are issues like that, together with the Esports Federation and the clash of multiple federations there, that need to be resolved. But our biggest problem as we speak now is the reluctance to put money on the table, even for competitions that government has committed to. So I hope this doesn't become just another speech by Akpokavi that gets, after a day or two, everyone just forgets about it. At least the timing of it. This week, the government has taken a lot of bashing. And rightly so, because they have slept on the job. I hope that this coming at this time provokes a certain action. You agreed to give them 12 million Ghana cedis for the Commonwealth Games. Release the funds.
Okay. Victor Achutamaklo with some analysis here on the situation with planning for the next Commonwealth Games.
That's the final point before I leave you.
Sure.
They also announced that they were going to. So there's a list of the disciplines that will be competing at the Commonwealth Games, the confirmed one. So boxing, cycling, athletics, judo, para power athletics, para swimming, weightlifting, taekwondo, volleyball. Those are the disciplines. So if you recall, the first list that I said had been slashed out, none of them featured here. Field hockey and all of those, none of them featured here. So these are the disciplines that Ghana will be presenting athletes to compete in. Also, they said by the end of June, they will begin work on the facility at Amasaman, Olympia Africa Stadium that they were supposed to build. The GOC president also said, contrary to reports that they inherited $500,000 for that project, he said it was only $100,000 that was in the GOC's accounts as at the time that they took over. And the condition even for that is that if by the end of June they have not started or completed the first phase of that project, that money will disappear from their accounts back into Olympia Africa. So they say that they will start work at least by the end of June, and they appear to have the buy-in from the ministry. Says the minister has pledged that they will also commit some funds to it, but have not indicated how much they will give them for that. So I think those were the major takeaways from today's AGM.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Victor Achutamaklo. And of course, we're going to be keeping tabs on the issues with the Ghana Olympic Committee as we try to get Team Ghana together once again for yet another appearance at the Commonwealth Games. Ideally, you'd expect, a couple of disciplines to come out and do well. Boxing, for instance, forgive my bias, but obviously the results are there for us to see. I also see, weightlifting as an area that we should also throw a lot of extra focus in because we see the evidence from time to time that it can just work out for us. 10 minutes to the top of the hour, 1 p.m. here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Nathaniel Attoh, and here with me in studio is Mr. Neil Armstrong Motagbe, who is in charge of corporate relations for the Ghana Football Association. Joining us virtually is Nana Ajiman. He's a coach and analyst. And also, later on, Fento Tahiru Fento will be joining us as we do some more analysis on the performances posted so far at the African Athletics Championships and how good Ghana could look in a few other events as we get closer and closer to the roundup of this one. All right, Neil, thank you so much once again. It's always great to have you for these kinds of conversations.
Thank you, Nat. Thank you, Nat, for having me. And I'd like to say hi to all your listeners. It's customary, isn't it? But it's still necessary.
Amazing, amazing.
We don't exist.
Amazing, amazing.
Yes.
Nana, good to have you back here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and a good afternoon to Neil there.
Hi, Nana. Been a while, eh? How are you doing?
Yeah, seriously, a very long while, very long while.
It's long.
Glad
stuff.
to still be amongst the living.
So between Nana and Neil, when it comes to participation in football, they've had a long participation. I've mentioned Neil's credentials to you. Nana has found himself on the technical end, participated in the Ghana Premier League. He handled a traditional club, what we describe as a community-based traditional club, which is that a football club is related to a specific geographical area in the country and draws its base in terms of followership and all of that from there. And, had his own lessons to learn during that period when he got that opportunity. And, of course, in terms of draw and in terms of interest, anytime he released the dreadlocks and stood by the sideline, he drew a lot of interesting attention from the cameramen and all of that. Well, gentlemen, we want to look at the impact of the game and why at all anybody should bother. There are people who keep asking why we are bothering ourselves, for instance, raising funds to make sure that Ghana participates at the World Cup. And it looks like sometimes the real impact of the game and what we tend to draw from it on the social end of things or on the sociocultural end of it gets lost on people. And so we want to throw the focus there again before we start looking again at the regular conversation about how good it's looking, and because time is running, and we're going to play Wales, we're going to play Mexico, and all of these are supposed to test a few people here and there. Of course, along the course of time, a few players get their clubs relegated, some of them losing their contracts and all of that, and they could have been good resource for us. We'll throw the focus on all of them as we go along. Let me begin with you, Neil. So recently we heard that, now when it comes to television viewership, we're very sure and assured that, look, it will work this time, because government has also made a commitment so that, as many platforms as possible get to participate in, the exercise of broadcasting these games to the people.
Well, it's good news, and we need to thank the government for procuring the rights, or moving to procure the rights. One would have wished, though, that at the level of, commercial thinking, we wouldn't need to have these interventions. But the question you ask is, why would that effort even be made? And I dare say that effort is being made because of what football means to this nation. There are various countries who focus on various sporting disciplines, and I have a pet topic I speak to a lot, and that's the comparative advantage of nations. So every nation state has its source of comparative advantage. For some, it's the natural resource that they have. For some, it's their human resource. For others, it's the flora and fauna that feed into the tourism potential of the country. For others, it is their sports. And so if you want to take an example out of what Jamaica would typically focus on, you find Jamaicans focus a lot on the sprints and the jumps, because they see that as a source of comparative advantage. If you go to Kenya, you know them a lot for athletics, a long distance, middle distance, source of comparative advantage. So the question you ask, for me, brings to mind this issue of comparative advantage. And I've seen successive governments spend a lot of resource and commit a lot of time to football. It's simply because football is a source of comparative advantage for Ghana. Yes, we may not have won the AFCON for several years, but we've always been regarded, we continue to be regarded as a football nation. Whether we've had our glitches or not, everybody still believes that Ghana is a football nation. And people believe that, and when I say people, I don't mean only Ghanaians. I'm talking about how the international community regards our football. It's a source of comparative advantage. That is why you would find the level of resource being invested in it. Time, commitment. You talked about the launch by His Excellency the President of a campaign to mobilize resources for support for the Black Stars. Football is a source of comparative advantage for this nation state. There will be a discussion, I believe, later, if not today, on another day, as to whether or not we are actually investing in it in a strategic, planned, long-termist view, or we are doing the ad hoc. What do I mean by ad hoc? Maybe something comes up, we need money, we go and raise the resource. If we are seeing football as a source of comparative advantage, there is a way we'll approach it. But to answer your question directly, simply because football, it means so much to this nation. We were in this country in 2010. Okay, let's even go back to our first qualification in 2006. Look at the euphoria that surrounded it. Whenever football does well, especially at the Black Stars level, it's like people forget everything that is going on around. They forget the economic circumstances. They forget that there's social issues that are at stake. Football, there's a senior, I can't remember the person who said this, but publicly said, in Ghana there are three religions: Christianity, Islam, and football, before he will go to African traditional religion. It tells you what football intrinsically means to Ghanaians. Yes, there are times where things might not go so well, and so you find people pulling back a bit. But you find anytime there's an uptick, and sometimes even when there's poor performance, the outpouring of anger should tell us that this is what football means to this country.
Yeah, before you continue, Nana and Neil, so one day I was driving by the Nyaho, hospital stretch,
yes,
an airport, and
sorry, were you on the clinic side or on the other side?
On the clinic side.
Okay, I wanted to be sure.
So this gentleman pulls over, and this was when I think it was when we failed to qualify for the AFCON. Yes. So this gentleman was riding a motorbike, saw me. I think I was even in a mask, if I'm not mistaken, at the time. So this guy pulls over and gets off this motorbike and approaches me. And immediately, the first thing, the first thought was, I thought, okay, this guy is coming to plead a charity case and, tell me a story and try to draw money from me. Then he says, and then after like 45 seconds, I realize he's somebody who watches me on television, follows me and follows all of our programs here. Then he starts talking about the Black Stars and starts talking about his neighborhood and how it used to be a traditional place where all of these stars used. And then he showed me some of the players and where they started their foundational football at in specific places in Accra. And he said, look, Nat, I want you to tell the minister this. I want to tell the FA this and this and that. And when he left me, I said, wow, this guy was going somewhere. He was going somewhere, as they always put it, and stopped and decided to have this conversation with me. And you could feel the passion. And this was during a period when people were, singing that chorus, oh, we don't care about the Black Stars anymore. We don't care about the Black Stars anymore. Yet this gentleman was able to stop and have this kind of conversation with me. And that goes to just underscore your point about, something that's with our blood that never goes away, even when we try to externally say, oh, we don't care about the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, if we can come to, I believe that a lot of people have that realization. It's sort of subliminal. It's in there. But if we could use that subliminal feel to fashion a national strategy, all right, let's call it a national football strategy, which it goes beyond what the FA does. FA organizes association football. I'm talking of a strategy that goes beyond organizing association football. It's a strategy like Morocco implemented, where the state decided that we want to be a powerhouse, not only in African football, but in world football. And you could see the deliberate actions taken going forward. We have a National Development Planning Commission in this country. And every time I go and look at the documents that they produced over the years, there was a time where when in the late 90s, there was Vision 2020. Okay, I read that document a bit later as a student. And I said, if we were to follow the kinds of things that we see in those kind of documents, there's a lot that we could do as a nation. Maybe I digress a bit out of football, but it's really about where do we place our emphasis. So back to football. This is a place where if we invest deliberately, so what the minister spoke to in terms of announcing that the rights have been acquired, it's a deliberate effort that has been made. But the point I'm making that is going forward or beyond tournament participation, beyond we've qualified for the World Cup. And so Ghanaians must watch our stars as they go and perform on behalf of the nation state. We need resources for various activities around the Black Stars. So His Excellency the President, sitting President today, comes, and I believe in the past government there were also efforts made to raise resources for the Black Stars when it was that we qualified for Qatar 2022. I think there was some breakfast meeting, if I remember correctly. So there is a realization that football is so important to the people of Ghana that it requires occasional interventions from the government to augment the resources required to ensure that beyond the team that is performing on the field of play and the attendant officials, there's even support from the supporters. We went to Germany 2006. We had sponsors, corporate sponsors sponsored supporters from Ghana to Germany to go and watch us in our first World Cup. 2010 was massive. It was massive. People were flown from this country to South Africa to go and support the Black Stars. So maybe I'd belabor the point. The point is, football means so much to us. We invest in it in different forms. The GFA, with whom I work, organize association football, manage the national teams also, within the context of what we are doing. I'm of the belief that beyond the efforts that we are currently doing, there should be a nexus in effort where, and it can even get to the level of parliament, where we say, which sports are the sports that give Ghana sources of comparative advantage? And we should list them. This is not to denigrate any sport, but I gave the example of Jamaica. I gave the example of Kenya. You could go so many, India, Pakistan, cricket. You could go South Africa, rugby. You could go. Different countries have identified their sources of comparative advantage and they are investing in them. There's a deliberate national effort and plan. I was talking about Morocco before I gave an example of Nyahu. People give Morocco as an African example. Do we dig deep to see what they've invested? into their state-of-the-art facilities for the sport, if we pick these sources of comparative advantage, and I'll name some of that, I've thought football, boxing, track and field athletics, certain disciplines within there. I've even put down swimming, because you have a nation where we have so many water bodies. All right, you've got kids who dive deep to go and pull oysters from the bed near Domi Bridge. And yet you have deep diving competitions organized by FINA and Ghana, and we don't have any Ghanaian participating there. I think that as a nation state, and sorry that I digress more from the football side, but I think this context is important. The context is important, that we see where we have source of comparative advantage. Deliberately, as a nation state, we are going to invest in it. We will monitor, and having monitored, we will monetize whatever it is that we have invested in.
Let me bring in Nana at this point, and I want him to bring the perspective of handling a community-based club, so that we understand, how deep it is. He previously was in charge of Okwewu United. Okwewu United don't play in the Ghana Premier League anymore, and that's a shame. I mean, if you know their history, you know what they represented at the time, and all of that. I have fond memories of building up to the weekend in the Ghana Premier League, and Okwewu United had a game to play, and you go to Abossey, where a lot of these guys who come from the Kwewu side of town will be flying their flags. I think it was yellow and white, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, yellow and white flags, and they are all over the place, and you're asking yourself, okay, this is not Hearts, this is not Kotoko, but a community-based club that is just beaming with a lot of pride and ready to go and support their club to get the job done. Nana, tell me about passion and about that belonging, that sense of belonging that our fans have in our clubs, and what then it means to have an entity of football that represents them, and and how we can also draw a lot out of this.
Well, thank you very much, Nat. Let me just also remind you that I was with All Blacks in Swedru, brought them to the Premiership, and also Secondary 11 Wise, and brought them to the Premiership as well. Unfortunately, I didn't finish my spell at Okwewu United. There were a lot of things that came about, but basically, when I was there, the passion is there. There's no doubt about it. You talk about Abossey, Kokompi, and various other places in Accra where they all come from, Kwawu and Nkoko, and it's fine. But the issue is, the problem is there's no structures within the club. And at that time, there was no structures. The man who gave me the job of blessed memory, Kofi Poku, I gave him and the chairman £10,000 because we didn't have the footballs, we didn't have the jerseys, we didn't have the equipment. They had nothing. They just had the name. They just had the passion. And you can't run a club just on passion. There was nothing there. So I gave them that. We were training down at this park at the back of Kumpi. I forgot what they call it. But when I first went there, I said, we can't train here because it's a very dangerous place to play football.
Darkuman.
That's the Sakura Park.
That's Darkuman, Sakura Park.
It was a Sakura Park, and it was new to me because, according to my teachings in securing the license, we would never play football on a park looking like that, because health and safety and all that, it was too bad. But, within about 15 minutes of arriving, the entire park, right the way around the park, there was just pure people. And they were all Okwewu United supporters. They had heard I'd been appointed as the coach, and now they wanted to come and see this Bruni Ghanaian, what he could do, And as well as that, they had this long-standing discipline and application of themselves to come to watch the training. A few hundred people there, and they were always there every day. So the passion is there, but there's no structures in the club. There was nothing there. I forgot the name of the chairman, Asiko, something like that, I think his name. When he was a guy, he dealt with gold. He had some mine in the eastern region. He was a gold dealer, blah blah. So he was financing the club. But yeah, the passion was great. The love for the club was great. But that doesn't make the club the club. And this is a challenge with all the clubs, because you look at the vast amount of traditional clubs we have. Where are they? Where are they? They're not there anymore. Wise has been relegated to Division 2. Hazakas is in Division 1. You look at all the other clubs. You've got All Blacks that are there, but Francoba is not there. You know, Corners, they're not there, also not there. So it's about having a proper structure. It's about having a proper system in place. These are the things that are the foundations of these clubs that can keep these clubs actually going. You can't have a club that is just run and periodically owned by one individual. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Even if you do have an individual who is the head of the club, he must have a system, he must have a structure that surrounds him. And despite the fact that he may be putting in the money, he doesn't make all the decisions, because there's a structure, because there's a system. And on that basis, a club can stand the test of time. But as it is now, without systems, without structures, we're floundering. And I hear Neil talk about the comparative advantage, but I don't think that we do have that. I think that, yes, we were known previously as a footballing nation, but that comparative advantage is not something that's with us. It's with Morocco. It's been with Brazil for forever and a day. It returned to Germany after they turned things around in the early 2000s and revamped the whole system from academy and everything all the way up. And now they're back to powerhouse standard. But it's not with us, because we haven't changed anything. We may have changed the president and the executive committee, but apart from that, the systems are missing, the structures are missing, and so I don't believe we have a comparative advantage. We were known as a footballing nation. There's no two ways about that. We've won the African Cup of Nations 4 times. But as I said to you last week, I don't think you're 50 yet now, but you've never seen the Ghana Black Stars win anything. It's been almost 45 years since the Ghana Black Stars has won the African Cup of Nations. And the last time we attempted that, we didn't qualify. So I don't see the comparative advantage there as such. But yeah, there is a passion for the Ghana Black Stars, although it has waned significantly, to be honest with you. And that's why we've had to initiate a campaign called Bring Back the Love, which basically accepts that there's a challenge between the Black Stars and the supporters. And that's why we're encouraging people to come back and support the Black Stars. But I think we've still got a long way to go. And as for the companies that come in now that we're at the World Cup, I mean, many of them are opportunists. Many of them are good friends of people in the GFA. And so they put their money there. I would like to see them put their money in the Ghana Premier League, because that's what needs sponsorship, because that, for me, that is where we should be picking, at least 50% of our players from. But we're not doing that, because the GPL isn't delivering. It's not attractive as such, and there's no proper development pathways for players to proceed into the Black Stars from there. So I think we've still got a lot of challenges. It's good that in this isolated case, we're going to the World Cup again. But I think that we still have a lot of challenges. We still have a long way to go. And if we want to take on the Moroccan example, it's not just about government supporting us or corporations supporting us. We must have a direction. we must have a clear direction, because the King of Morocco didn't just plough the money in. The Moroccan FA has a clear and distinct direction. They know where they're going. They know where they want to be in the next 10 years, and they're applying that as a model for the way forward.
Najman there. Okay, now let's talk about issues of direction and where we want to see ourselves. And I want Neil to bring us towards that, because we've accepted that without a doubt football is on the top of the ladder when it comes to its acceptance by the people as what we really own and what we draw from it. Now, he's talking about plowing resources towards the Ghana Premier League, which is a bed of development for players who are drawn into these teams and all of that. Now, where are we going with it? Okay, now if anybody just came and joined and wants to see what we are doing here in Ghana to use as a case study or a template, what are we telling the person?
So, Nana makes some points which I disagree with. Obviously, we've got a World Cup ahead, so we are very focused as a football association on it. He makes a point that in an isolated case that we qualify for the World Cup. I think that's uncharitable, respectfully. We qualified for the 2022 World Cup. Was that also an isolated case? I think that we need to put things in context. And he's entitled to his opinion, but I have two ways I look at things. Is a glass half full or is it half? I like the half full. Others like the half empty. So I keep talking about what is it that we are doing good, not to say it's perfect. So where could we be going to? Qualification to this World Cup is not an isolated incident. Like I said earlier, we qualified for 2022 World Cup. We had the youngest team over there. Went there and played against powerhouses in world football, Uruguay and Portugal. We played against Korea also. We won against Korea and we lost against Uruguay and Portugal. Just to put that point in context about this being an isolated case. We talk about the foundations of the sport. Yes, in as much as we want to talk World Cup, the foundations are being worked on. We have a men's football strategy in place. We have a women's football strategy in place. We've started under 15 women's football.
Yes.
We've started U15 boys. We have national teams playing at U15, U16, U17, U18, U19 as a pathway to develop them. These things are in existence, being spent on by resources raised from the corporate bodies that are happy to support Ghana football. Nana talks about corporate bodies having friends in the FA and that's why they would come on board or they are being opportunistic. Again, I think that is uncharitable. Goldfields Ghana Limited last week or so announced a $5 million sponsorship for the Black Stars, for the Black Queens, for the Women's Premier League developmental phase, and also for the Black Challenge amputee football in the interest of inclusivity. Can we describe this as opportunism? So I think that when it is, that in as much as we believe and we know we are developing, we shouldn't downplay the investments made by companies like Goldfields, for example. A few weeks ago, again, a company called Hoshi International came on board to support the Black Stars. That's a 5-year deal. That's not opportunism. That's a commitment for 5 years. Goldfields are for 2 years. MTN have been with our football for God alone knows how long, over 15 years.
And theirs was $2 million.
$2 million.
Yeah, I remember.
Apart from the FA Cup, they've said $2 million for the Black Stars. You know, I could go on and on in mentioning companies. I think, and I'm talking from the perspective of, is the glass half full? If we have the level that we are at in our development as a nation, and we have corporate bodies coming on board to support us this way, I wouldn't call it opportunism. I'll call it as they seeing some good, they seeing some potential. Because until you see these things, and I talk also as somebody who's worked in corporate before. So if I've worked in corporate before, I've also, is Nana saying something?
Yeah, Nana, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Very well, sure.
So I just want us to situate these supports that we get from corporate Ghana in the context of companies who have seen something and are ready to support it, rather than to call them opportunists. we talk about what is there in place. Over the years, the Football Association has embarked upon as many as 24 strategic initiatives aimed at what the Executive Council coined as fixing the fundamentals of our game. So 2018, we had a challenge with our game. That challenge resulted in an image that got so sunken that we needed to build it again. The biggest challenge in there was our officiating. And so up comes a new administration led by President Edwin Simon Okreku, and says if refereeing was identified as one of our biggest challenges then, we need to find a way to fix it. I won't sit here and say today that it's perfect, but the Catch Them Young Referees concept is towards fixing a challenge that the Football Association identified, and that is part of fixing the fundamentals. What we'll say about building a structure. If we put in place developmental national teams that have scouts in every single region of this country, looking for talent that can feed the developmental teams, that will then go on to feed the competitive teams. By competitive, I mean U17s, U20, that's the Starlights, U23, the Meteors for Olympic Games, and then our Black Stars. That is system. That is system. So I'm just pointing at those as examples of there being a system in place to work towards correcting or augmenting what has been there already. 2019, there were a lot of districts in this country where coast football was not being played. In the Volta region, for example, coast football was being played in one district. As we speak, coast football is being played in the 22 districts of the Volta region. That again is what? Fundamental, that's the basics. We are working on a project today where we want to ensure that every single football player registered in the Ghana Football Association system gets a minimum of 3 footballs every year, one-on-one, to work with. Because at the base of the player's ability and ability to express himself in the game is the ability to use the ball, the knowledge of how the ball works. We call it a triple ball development policy. It's a work in progress. But before that work in progress, every year, over the last 3 or 4 years, football clubs in this country have been given some of the basic tools that they need to work. Footballs, football boots, Premier level, Division 1 level, Women's Premier League level, Women's Division 1 League level, regional level. So the regional level then cascades to your D2s, your coast football. Footballs are acquired for them because it's a basic tool. Nana spoke about it being a basic tool. So for me, I like to look at what is being done. Yes, a lot more could be done as resources are raised. It's not like the picture shouldn't be painted like there's nothing or nothing is being done. There's a lot being done. When it says that FIFA conduct an audit of the FA and say based upon the results of that audit, we are confident in your utilization of resources we've given you before. Therefore, bring another request. We're talking about FIFA Forward. So FIFA Forward comes up and then says, what do you need to develop your game? We need to resource our regional secretariats to be able to manage the game at the regional level.
So FIFA Forward is what used to be the Goal Project.
It used to be the Goal Project. Yes. Now it's called FIFA Forward. So then the FA says, if we are looking at building systems from the grassroots level, then we should resource the grassroots level. So you resource their secretariats. Resource the secretariats both in terms of infrastructure and then in terms of vehicular movement. So vehicles were acquired during Mr. Nyantechi's time. Those vehicles, most of them had outlived their lifespan, and so FIFA Forward is applied to new vehicles for these ones. You put in motivational schemes for the clubs. I'm not sitting here saying that things are perfect, but I think it's also important that we situate our discussion in context that there is work going on. There is a strategy in place. I've given guideposts to that strategy, and I believe that as we prosecute that strategy, we'll start seeing the results. The results will not start showing up all of a sudden. The context in which I spoke about football being a source of comparative advantage is this. We have the talent, and it's not like other countries do not have that talent, but our talent has shown several times that we have superior talent. That's why you have a sprinter in Jamaica who would, on any given day, outsprint a lot of other sprinters. So for me, and having done my research and analysis, I strongly still believe that football is a source of comparative advantage for this nation. It is the reason why the governments, every successive government, invest in it. They know that this is at the core of the people. It's at the heart of the people. The talent is there to be expressed, to be developed and expressed. And I insist and I maintain the fact that the source of comparative advantage context I'm saying is, what are we gifted in? How have we performed in what we are gifted in? And can we continue to perform at a higher level? That's the context.
Okay, now one quick question. Now the concept of sharing 3 balls for the boys and girls who play at the developmental level.
Yes, the triple ball development policy.
The triple ball development policy. Is this something that was researched on, based on which you decided to use that particular strategy?
Yes,
is this something that came
from? It's based on research.
The technical
directorate. Yes.
Okay.
Obviously, I mean, think about it. Even aside of the research, what do you play? What's the basic equipment for playing football? It's a football. So if it is the case that you are aware, or we are aware, that not every footballer gets as much time with the ball as he or she ought to get, it surely makes sense to ensure that we get the player to have that time with the ball, which is what also part of what directed the triple ball development policy. Yes.
Well, here on the Joy Sports link on Joy 99.7 FM, 055-1111-997. 055-1111-997. That's for our WhatsApp console. You can join us with your thoughts as well on this particular subject. In a bit as well, we'll be zooming in on the African Athletics Championships, which is drawing to a close. We'll look at Team Ghana, what we were able to post. I remember that we had the sprint team here in the studio last weekend, and they've been able to put up a performance. Now we'll be reviewing it and taking a look at the next stage, or the next level. Also, we'll be bringing you a bit in terms of what's been happening with the Black Starlets team, who have started their campaign at the ongoing African Under-17 tournament, the African Under-17 Championship ongoing in Morocco. One very, very brilliant goal scored, by one of our players. We'll be reviewing all of that here as we zoom in on the conversation on football. Okay, so let me do a few messages here. We have a couple of messages that I would like to share with you at this time. Now, this one doesn't have a name. It says, Ghana must be banned from hosting any competition in Africa by the appropriate authorities. Too much evidence to that effect. Secondly, to sports persons, there are many serious nations who prioritize every sport and invest in their well-being to achieve greater things. Ghana is not one of them. So if you're Ghanaian, with all the evidence available as lessons, advise yourselves, naturalize for the serious nations, and live off your full potentials. Ghana. And then it's not the negativity, but it's actually the truth. Okay, thank you very much for that message. You should add your names and all when you send the messages in. I agree with Neil. It's the way we see things and the opportunities we identify that we can invest in. This is from Ejayao in North Cape. All right, thank you very much. There's another one here. Okay. All right, let me start from here. Good day, Nathaniel. My regards to my Phobian brother, Neil. Just when some of us began making so much noise for our athletes to be properly funded by government, they have embarrassingly justified why government doesn't find it prudent to support them with so much funds. As for local football, the least said about it, the better. Both the club managers and the FA seem visionless and less innovative, if that's what you want to say, compared to the best practices around the globe prosper. And then he says the current under-17 team are a promising team. The only problem, as I watched in their last match against Algeria, is a technical deficiency, and we must do something about it as soon as we can. Okay, so this is from Prosper in Dakuman. Prosper, thank you for the message. He talks about the Black Starlets. So we'll be zooming in on them as well, during this conversation. Okay, so talk about plans on paper. There are plans on paper. And talk about implementation. There is implementation as
Absolutely.
well. Okay. And this is something that has been highlighted by Neil Armstrong Motogbe. Coach, there's evidence of what is being done on the ground. For you, is there any specific area that you feel the FA should be focusing on in wanting to achieve this close to ideal picture that some of our peers have, like the likes of Morocco and all of that?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say, I mean, Neil got back at me on some points. I've not said at all that nothing is happening. I've just given a position on what I think isn't happening. And I mean, if I go back to when the president was elected, for example, he said 7 years ago or so he would ignite the passion. The passion, Neil has the passion, that's true. But in terms of us, the normal supporter on the street, we've had to try and reignite that passion by bringing about the bring back the love. That is because there's been a disconnect between the performance of the Black Stars and the people who support them. As for creating wealth for all, yes, there's been some changes with salaries, but it's woefully inadequate. I think it starts this year, if I'm not mistaken. It's woefully inadequate, and that is not creating wealth. In terms of the competition, yes, that has gone back up. That has gone up, and that's significant. But that's performance related. And so, other issues for me is like, I don't believe that the pathway really exists, because right now, when it comes to talking about the Black Stars and participants involved in there, we've got a match against Mexico, and we can't even put the Black Galaxies up. That's the Black Stars B team, really and truly. For that match that's going to be played against Mexico, why can't the Black Galaxies go and play that match? Because they are the B team of the senior national team. If we're looking for replacements for injured players, etc., directly the first port of call should really be the Black Galaxies, because they're the B team. I also have issues about the DNA, about the way we play. We had Lippert came in, he wrote a book. It was about the football philosophy. It talked about the DNA. I've never seen it. I know you've not seen it, Nat. No one has seen it. It's not implemented. We still depend on the implementations of philosophies from the individual coaches that we appoint themselves. We don't have a particular pattern. We don't have a particular style, yet we have a comparative advantage. And I don't think that works out. The maths don't math when it comes to that, to be perfectly honest with you. And there's been so much changes technically that it's astounding. I mean, we've had 3 technical directors within 7 years. We've had, over 15 different coaches throughout the different men's and women's national teams set up. And what direction directly are we going in? I see what the under-17s do, and a lot of people would say, oh, we should sack the coach. And I would like that coach to stay on whether we succeed with this AFCON or not, because this is the only way you can build continuity. It's the only way. If we keep changing the coaches all the time and not having a steadfast philosophy or a DNA or a way we play, we won't progress like that. We just won't progress like that. So I'm not saying that nothing exists. I mean, he talks about 24 strategic initiatives. Tell the public about them. Let us know what's happening. We'd like to know that, yes, there are 24 initiatives and they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let us know that there's things that are happening, because we can't see it. And as for the officials, the referees, I agree. The Catch Them Young was great, but we've not solved the problem with the referees that we have right now. And we still have the complaints week in, week out, where people are alleging that matches have been swayed one way or another because of the officials that are there. Clubs wanting to boycott a fixture because they don't want that match official there because he's done this, he's done that. We've not solved that problem.
Okay, no,
we haven't solved that problem.
Okay, now there's a foundation that has been laid, and you see a certain generation of young men and women who are interested in refereeing, who are being placed strategically, get trained so that eventually they can fill up all of these spaces, I mean, in the foreseeable future. Now, so, I mean, if we're saying that the problem is not solved, I mean, there's already a generation of referees who exist who did not participate in the Catch Them Young or did not get discovered through the Catch Them Young, concept. And so, are we being fair if we still, attach, because Catch Them Young is on its own, and I'm very sure that in the next maybe 10 years, 15 years to come, if we see Catch Them Young products performing in the league, then we can say that, well, maybe the concept did not work.
No, well, look, I've said in the beginning, I support the concept. I think it's brilliant. I don't have a problem with it. I think we're not looking at 10 and 15 years. I think we're looking at 5 to get these youngsters in there. We really do, because look, the officials that we have right now, I don't want to use certain words. I don't want anybody taking me to court or anything for defamation. But we know they're not up to it in terms of competence. That's probably the best word.
Is that the full picture for? I mean, for if you're playing, for instance, a Ghana Premier League game in 18 venues, all the 18 referees are not up to scratch or are not.
No,
good? Is that what we're saying?
I didn't say all, but
okay.
there's a vast majority. And if I don't know if you've not heard, but if you listen to what's going on in middle league matches as well. A lot of drama, a lot of problems going on there. And the centre man is at the centre of it all, being swayed left or right by, some say, people in the regional FA, some say club owners. These are real things now. These are real things that are happening 2026 now. It's happening now. And I'm not saying that you're not going to get a situation where there's a bad apple, because within every system, you will get your bad apples. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but we must try to be as close to the 100% as possible. And we've had this issue with referees for far too long. But I agree that the initiative with the referees is fantastic. I support it. And even in what I've written, I've made it quite clear. I support that. But there are other challenges, like I say. I don't believe the development pathway is something that people have really taken into consideration. Even the clubs themselves don't have a development pathway. Look at the club licensing, for example. I mean, every season, clubs get these interim certificates to say, yes, you can play in the Premier League. And they hardly do anything to remedy what those challenges were. And really, when you check it, so many clubs are not Premiership clubs. They're still being run from car boots. That's what we wanted to transition
Which of the clubs are being run from car boots?
No, I'm not. Look, don't take it literal like that. They're still not being run professionally.
Let's place this.
Being run professionally.
Okay, hold on. Let's place this within context. Let me use the example of in Swatreman, for instance. Okay. Now, in Swatreman found themselves qualifying for the Premier League. I think it was about 2-3 years ago. Very well. Now, by the regular standard that we were used to in the 1990s and the 2000s, any club that came from Division 1 came in with, not so good resources, not so good infrastructure, not so good funding, for very obvious reasons, because they're playing at the lower tier of Ghana football. But then you go to Nswatreman, who are based in the Bono area of the country, and they have standard facilities. They have a secretariat, which is standard for every club that is that plays in. And for me, it should be every tier of our football. But of course, it's relative development and relative resources for every club. And you look at their setup, you look at the kind of infrastructure that they've put up for a club that came in from the lower tier. And I thought it was impressive. And I was saying to myself that if every other club or every other smaller club in that came from the lower tier of Ghana football and would display this standard of infrastructure and structure within administration, then at least we should be making some headway. And this is hard evidence on the ground that we've all seen. It's not like we're, so that's the reason why I'm coming back on that point, Nana.
Yeah, no problem. I've got no problem with the point you're coming back on. It's a solid example. It's a solid example, and I'm not going to decry that down. But I'm also not going to stand down from what I'm saying and what I'm alluding to. We have the club licensing, and perhaps if you check this season, how many clubs had a full bill of health to play in the Premier League this season? And we've had club licensing for over a decade. And if we're not able to enforce these things properly, then it's a glitch in the system. It's a glitch in the structure. And as I've said before, the other point is that, look, we're playing Mexico shortly, and we don't have the confidence to depend on the Black Galaxies, which is the Ghana Black Stars B team. When the Ghana Black Stars B team play, does it have an effect on our FIFA rankings? Nat, I'm speaking to you.
Tell me.
I'm asking you.
Does it? It does.
I'm asking you.
I'll
Are you
get
still
that for
there
you in
now?
a bit. Yeah, I'm here. I'll get that for you in a bit.
But
Okay,
if it's an A international, it certainly will have an impact on our standing.
No, it's the B. I mean
No, he's saying that if the B team plays in the international upcoming friendly, I mean the one with Mexico.
Okay,
Unless I'm not
if they're
getting him.
representing the
Right.
Black Stars,
Does it impact? Of course
Right.
it would.
So
If the Black Galaxies represent the Black Stars in an A international game, nobody is going out there to say it's the Black Galaxies. They'll say it's Ghana.
exactly.
And having said that, Nana, you talk about the Black Galaxy. I mean, that's an approach you advise, but we've changed a coach a few weeks or months to the World Cup. He has the responsibility to put together or to bring his touch, if you like, to the team or the squad that he's going to name for the World Cup. He is looking across the vista of wherever Ghanaian players are playing and says, for this first friendly, I'm going to select a squad that gives me alternatives. At least that's how we read the squad that he announced. If you look at the squad he announced, how many of those players have participated even in the qualifiers for the World Cup? This last squad he announced has got six or seven. I was just trying to pull it up. Six players from the local league. Those would ordinarily have been Black Galaxies players. So all I'm saying is he has a job to do. He has an objective in the short term. And in the short term, he's done his scouting. He's analyzed copious content and says, I am picking these six from the local league, and that's even without mentioning Benjamin Asari, and I'm picking others that I've identified all around the globe just to have alternatives that should augment and bring some level of competition into the squad that I'll announce for the World Cup. At this time, that is the approach that he chooses to adopt. Your approach would be, why doesn't the Black Galaxies, sorry, why doesn't the Black Galaxies represent? I'm saying to you that the chap has a job to do, and within the shortness of the time, this is the way he's proposed to proceed with it. I am also a fan of local football. I believe that we should have a lot of our local players being projected, being given the opportunity. But we also look at the context and the time in which we sit. And that's all I'm saying.
No, I'm not fighting against that either. I mean, we had a lot of time with Coach Otto Addo. This is just a coach who's just coming a few days ago, and now he's going to augment an A-team squad with local players. But I mean, where was that before? What were we doing before? Why couldn't we see this before?
So you mean you'd have preferred we had done this particular strategy, earlier?
Well, what's
and
the point of having the Ghana Premier League? What's the point? Isn't it to get the best from the GPL to go and represent Ghana? Isn't it about that? But we've disregarded them and strictly looking abroad, and that shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the case at all. Okay. I mean, you can come back, Neil. I see you remonstrating, but you qualified in 2022. How many local players went? How many local players went? We always
So
bring
I didn't get
goalkeepers.
that. Sorry, I'm not hearing him well. I can't
Okay,
hear
so
him.
he's talking about the 2022 World Cup and the fact that we did not have a similar strategy in place so that we, would get a lot more players, local players, to make it to the World Cup. How many? So he's asking how many players did we?
Local
take?
players.
In
Domestic
2022?
players. Yes.
In 2022,
Yeah.
there was Barnier, and there were two others. Okay, and so when you have a system, and he knows that a lot of the time, the creme de la creme of our talent leaves this country early, unless we are refusing to accept it. So if the creme de la creme are leaving early and are being seen better or more easily in foreign leagues, how do you fault a system that a coach comes and says, look, I'm going to select players wherever they play? If he's going to compare pound elsewhere with pound for pound players playing in country, and the coach, the majority of the players who I believe can represent the Black Stars are based outside, is that not the reality we must face? And then in adding to, say, some confidence, building confidence for the local, you look for those who have potential and feed them in. Where did Benjamin Asari come from, for example? Where did Razak Simpson come in, for example? They are local players who played in the qualifiers. I just gave those as examples. And for me, yes, it's for me. I'm happy to get all the let's say the criticism, the pointers to what could be better. But beyond the point to be what could be better, the question is what have we been able to achieve over the last few years? It's for me, there's got to be that context that this A, B, C, D, E, F, G have been done. These could also be done, and in the future they should be done. The time in which we sit, as I joined you in the studio, it's a time where we've got 4 weeks barely to the World Cup. And at the FA, we are building momentum for our World Cup. These debates we are happy to have, but the debate should be situated in context and such that they also help to develop us. I'm happy to have that debate. I talked about 24 initiatives. I've listed them, but the topic you gave me in coming to the studio was about what kind of squad are we expecting the coach to call. And then we also spoke about having some talk about the strategic aspects of the conversation of the Black Stars and of the Ghana Football Association. These conversations will take time. I hear everything Nana has said. I have said I disagree with some of his submissions, and he has a right to also agree or disagree. All I'm saying is we should arm ourselves with the facts about everything we say, because a lot of times people make general statements and don't give specific instances. I sat here and gave specific instances of examples of what is being done. And I went on to say, as an FA, we cannot say we are there yet. Officiating it fell flat in 2018. You don't rebuild it in 5-6 years. You rebuild it over time. A whole stock of 77 referees were put on ice. These were our A-lister referees who were caught up in the number 12 expose. You don't replace them overnight. It takes time. So for our president, when we say fixing the fundamentals, it's about there is a foundation that we must build. The foundation's results will not be seen in the short term. They will be seen mainly in the medium to long term. The question one person who wants to analyze is, okay, what do you define as medium to long term? So if I build a foundation today in football, okay, and I'm looking to see, say, for example, we have a certain stock of under 15 players who we believe could become the bedrock of the under 17, who can then feed the under 20. That's already 5 years gone. You will not see the result today. But we believe that in that Catch Them Young referees, for example, and the other initiatives, which not, I'll be happy. You give us an opportunity to come in studio and go point by point. This is the initiative. These were the objectives the initiative sought to achieve. These were the target beneficiaries. These were the fallouts. These were the successes. These are the next steps. I believe that will be more informative conversation. All I'm saying is this ship ain't a perfect one. It's a ship that continues to be built. There may be mistakes, and there will always be mistakes in what we do, but we will accept the mistakes where they are, try and correct, and continue to move forward. For me, that's basically the perspective in which we work at the FA.
Very well. Well said. And as we get towards the end of the show, I would also ask all of you about, what you've seen so far. That's if you took your attention to the University of Ghana Stadium and monitored a bit of what Ghana put up, on the tracks and, on the field. Fento Tahiro Fento joins me for a conversation and a review as well of what we've seen so far at the at the African Athletics Championship. There's a message from Dania Moating that says, solid submission by Neil. We are tired of the consistent looking down on our game. Thank you very much, Danny, for that message. Keep the messages coming in. Let's do some more. Okay, let's. I'll do this one. It's pretty lengthy, but I want to bring in, Fento at this point. Fento, good to have you. Have you been working out this morning or something?
I have been working out. I just got back from the gym. I did a late morning workout, so I was in the gym when Benaya kept harassing.
Don't worry.
me.
I have a perfect beverage for you for muscle recovery. I see.
No, please.
I don't want to. I see Neil smiling.
I don't want to look like Neil. I don't want to look like Neil.
Neil is a fine guy, with a smooth bald. You mean you don't want to have a bald? Your head, the shape of your head is not for bald haircuts.
I have nothing against how.
Stay in your lane. We the people who are bald.
Like him. That's it.
We here.
Neil, congratulations. You are looking like you have. You are looking well, Neil. You are looking very well.
All right. Look, let's get into the conversation. We were very hopeful that we could pull it off, but of course, there's been a lot of strong opposition from other countries. So, we couldn't get a gold or a silver in the men's 100 meters final, and the 4x100 meters, which we thought was going to go well as well. We ended up with a bronze. Give me an overview, of how it's gone.
Yeah, I think everyone was very disappointed that we didn't get the gold. To be fair, a medal is a medal. To get on the podium is still very, very important because now we've won 5 medals already at these championships, and if the guys didn't win yesterday, that would have been 4. So yesterday we added 2 more bronze medals from the women and men's 4x100 meter relay. But I think the color of the medal that a lot of people, including the athletes themselves, would have expected and wanted was the gold medal. And that's a fair expectation because this team has shown over the years that they're one of the best teams on the continent. And when they're the second fastest African 4x100 meter relay team ever. And you've got several key members of the squad still in there. South Africa are the fastest, but even they didn't come with their A team. So yesterday, for example, South Africa didn't even get on the podium. And so, pre-competition, a lot of the focus was on Nigeria versus Ghana, sort of maybe like a repeat of what we saw during the African Games when they just picked us to gold. And then we got our revenge in Cameroon at the last African Championships and won the gold. So coming into Accra, we were definitely the favorites because we were number 1 defending champions, and we had gone to the World Relays in Botswana. We had done really well too, qualifying for the World Championships next year. And and in the heat, opening rounds too, they ran well. They won their heat fairly comfortably, I have to say. So you can see the build-up and where the expectation is coming from, and why everybody who expected them to win gold would have been right and fairly justified in that expectation. So when expectation exists and the outcomes don't match the expectations, that's when you have disappointment. And I think the disappointment from yesterday was also justified and fairly palpable. So what happened? Well, I have to say, though, I think it's not so much that our boys just didn't have the speed. I feel like they probably sort of caved under the pressure. And then they were maybe also a little bit fatigued because in track and field, you really need to keep fresh all the time and manage all the runs. Look, these guys got on flights, 16-hour flights, 18-hour flights to go to Botswana. And right after that was done, they hopped on another 16-hour, 18-hour journey from Botswana to Accra because that's certainly not easy. You have to go to South Africa or go to Ethiopia to Accra. It was long. And when they arrived, immediately 2 of the boys did 3 rounds of 100 meters. The heat, the semifinals, and the final. And, so that physically, that is very exerting. That can take its toll. And it also didn't help that they were trying a bit too much in the opening rounds. And that's where I feel like mentally, psychologically, they also kind of caved under the pressure. Because in the opening rounds, we often see this in track, where the top athletes would manage their times very well and manage the rounds well. That's why you see in 100 meters heat, semi-final, you see the top athletes slowing down as they approach the finish line because they need to conserve the energy. Our athletes, on the other hand, because they were running in front of their home fans, every single race they just wanted to win. But you don't even always have to win in order to qualify to the next round. You can finish second and still qualify. You don't need to do too much. And then you saw that in 100 meters heat, semi-final, all our boys wanted to do was win every single heat. So there was a lot of physical exertion as a result of the psychological and mental pressure that came from running in front of their own fans. So when they make the final, Joe Paul and Samini, you could just tell that they had just done way too much in the opening rounds. The other guys who were running with no pressure, they still had just a little bit more in the tank. And so, so in the end, they both missed the podium. Joe Paul finished fourth, Samini finished fifth. And so after that, that's two of our relay boys. After that, they had to go and run the 4x100 meter relay. That's two boys that run 3 rounds of 100 meters, didn't medal, and they've gone into the 4x1 with even more pressure built up from their failure to get on the podium from the 100 meters. So they were desperate to do well. And once again, in the heat, we saw how they won the heat. They went out maybe a little too hard, again, to try and impress the home fans because they came for a show. And I don't blame them. A lot of them have never competed in front of Ghanaian fans before, in front of their family, ever. Because most of them live in the U.S. and they're always competing in, in Tokyo, in Eugene, in the U.S., in Botswana, but never really at home. So when you have your family in front of you, all your mates from junior high school, secondary school, sometimes you can be a little bit too excited trying to impress. And track and field doesn't help with that, because once you do that, you exert a bit too much energy in the opening rounds. Come when it really matters, you can struggle.
You're not able to do it in the on the big stage and when it matters most. Anyway, to wrap it up, to wrap it up, Fent, in the next minute, I want you to tell me about our girls as well and what the takeout is from their performance. I mean, considering the circumstances under which they all came together to compete in this particular one.
Yeah, I think that they are the surprise revelation of these championships. 2 of them in secondary school. 1 of them is even in Form 1, in SHS1 at St. Louis. They call her Gaza. That is Boateng, SHS1 student. The other one is a WASI student, a WASI candidate this year, Aisha Jafar, the one that everybody calls Odobroni. She is about to write WASI. The other 2, one just finished, is in first year at UCC. The other one is in the security services. This team had never run together now. They put them together only for a few days, and they delivered a very unlikely bronze medal. And this is what we talk about, giving them the opportunity at the highest stage and running next to a lot of very accomplished track and field athletes. It gives you something. You pick up techniques, and to get on the podium, in the end, you could see that they were way happier than the men because they didn't even expect to get on the podium, and they did. The men, they got exactly the same medal, Nathaniel, but the expression, the celebration were different. And it just tells you what the expectations were on each of those teams going into the final. So I think what the potential is huge. We just need to try and keep them together. Every relay competition, bring them together, and I think they have a really good potential of going all the way and breaking the national record. Because your favorite by the name, Nat, she was picked from Okes to the All-Africa Games in South Africa in 1999 when she was also in Okes as a 16-year-old. When she went to the African Games in 99 in Durban, she finished dead last in the 100 meters and the 200 meters. But in the end, what became of her career? One of the greatest sprinters of all time. That
Amazing.
This country has ever.
Amazing stuff. Fento, thank you so much. We're going to do some more analysis in the coming week, obviously, because the performance by the girls, especially as you've very brilliantly analyzed, is something that we need to draw from, especially considering the circumstances like those in school and all of that. Thank you so much, Fento, and you have a good one. And would wrap it up on the note of the Black Starlets in the last minute or two. And Neil, I mean, they started off well. I mean, we've been talking about having a return to the days, the early 90s when the Black Starlets was a big brand. Now we have another opportunity to get back on that stage. The Black Starlets started 2-2, and it was a good game. We had Eric Jamefi score an amazing goal, and now we have Senegal next to deal with at the Under-17 AFCON.
Well, the Starlets, like you said, they started well. The goals they conceded, there are those who have made their comments that they were avoidable, but it's the game of football. Things happen. We are looking at this generation doing well, but more importantly, giving us a sign or signs that they have what it takes to progress through the pathways, through the other national teams, and ultimately being able to represent us at the Black Stars level, because that's the whole essence of the developmental football. It's great to win trophies. We've won trophies how many years ago? There were so many commentaries about how we won those ones. For now, it's about ensuring that the quality that we can identify at the U15 level, U16, U17, they go out there, play a tournament. We see some players in there who could progress towards the Black Satellites at U20, who could progress to the Black Meteors at U23, and ultimately be part of the stock from which we will select our future Black Stars. For us at the FA, that is the focus. Identifying talent that can go through the ranks and ultimately represent us at the top level.
We chased it down through endless nights. Street corner my head.
All right, Nana, in the next 40 seconds, kindly, can you just tell us what you think the Starlets can do in trying to put the game against Senegal under control and possibly get a win, so it improves the chances in this tournament? Very
well. It's all about focus now, because the two goals at halftime we were 2-0 up. I don't know what was said in the changing room, but I don't know if we lulled ourselves into a false sense of security. But basically, we've got to maintain the focus for 90 minutes or more. We lost the focus in the second half. I don't know the reason why, because I felt like we were commanding, even though Algeria represented a big threat to me. So it's all about maintaining the focus, maintaining the concentration, role responsibility, and ensuring you stick to the tactical play that your coach tells you to, because I just felt they fell off of shape in the second half, and we all saw it. In fact, it could have been 3-2 against us. It could have been 3-2. So I just like to see them focus, concentrate for the full time of that game that they've got coming up now with Senegal.
Amazing. Amazing.
And take the chances.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nana. We're grateful to you.
Thank you very much, Nat.
And that's how we wrap it up this afternoon on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM. Obviously, a lot to talk about, but of course, it's one day at a time. Continue to follow us on all of our channels on social media. It's at Joy Sports GH across board. Thanks so much to Neil Armstrong Motogbe. Thank you so much to Nanajiman, and of course, Fento Tahiru Fento. Thanks to all of you, for those who were able to get your text messages in. Apologies to all of those whose messages we couldn't read. We'll be back next week with another Joy Sports Link. And of course, Kwame Dazi takes over with the rest of the team to bring you showbiz A to Z. Every reason to stay with us here on this channel.